Hello everyone. So far we were discussing about weathering and soil formation. Weathering is the physical disintegration and chemical decomposition of the source rock. The aspects of physical disintegration, that is physical or mechanical weathering, have been discussed so far. Today let's discuss more about the chemical weathering. You know, the weathering produces solid particulate residue and dissolved solids. When we talk about chemical weathering, it essentially produces chemical sediments from the solution. So, in this lecture, we will be discussing about the different types of chemical weathering, the process involved in the chemical weathering, and so on. So, let's move on to the topic of chemical weathering.
Chemical weathering is the most common and important mode of weathering when you compare it with the physical weathering, even in arid climates. Due to low temperatures of weathering environment, generally the weathering environment is characterized by temperature of less than 30 degrees Celsius. The chemical weathering occurs very slowly. It involves changes that can alter both the chemical and mineralogical composition of the rock. It was not the case in terms of physical weathering where there is no chemical change occurs in the rock. Whereas in case of chemical weathering, it alters both the chemical and mineralogical composition of rocks. Minerals in the rocks are attacked by water and dissolved atmospheric gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide that causes some of the components of the mineral to dissolve and be removed in the solution. Some mineral constituents recombine in situ, that is at the site of its formation, and recrystallize to form new mineral phases. So, as we have discussed earlier about the formation of sedimentary rock, there are two types of weathering residues were formed. One is solid residue and the other one was mineral that is dissolved in the solution. So, the mineral constituents that were found in the solution recombine in situ and crystallize to form a new mineral phases. The chemical changes along with the physical weathering that both together disrupt the fabric of the weathered rock, producing some residual blocks and a loose residue of resistant grain and secondary mineral. So the chemical changes or chemical weathering along with the physical weathering, it produces three components. One is residual blocks, large blocks of rocks, and a loose residue of resistant grains. Example for which is quartz, the mineral quartz. And then you have the secondary minerals. Those are the minerals that formed in situ by the recombination and recrystallization. So major chemical weathering processes that happen in the earth's surface include simple solution. We may also call it as congruent dissolution, which occurs when the mineral goes into solution completely without precipitation of other substances. There is no precipitation occurs in case of simple solution. So example for which is highly soluble minerals like calcite, dolomite, gypsum and halite, and even less soluble minerals such as quartz, which undergo simple solution during exposure to the meteoric water, that is the rainwater. So you must have seen some salts when you, for example, when you put salt like our kitchen salt or sugar into solution into the water, then you can see that after a point, if you stir well, then it will completely dissolve into the solution. So that is kind of a congruent dissolution. Okay, now let's look what is the reason for this? The chemical bonds between ions in minerals are broken during solution process, which destroy the mineral and releasing constituent ions into solution in surface or groundwater. If carbon dioxide is dissolved in the rainwater through the interaction with the atmospheric or soil carbon dioxide, the solubilizing ability of water is enhanced, which means that it becomes a more powerful solvent. So dissolution of carbon dioxide in water forms carbonic acid, which is H2CO3 minus, which subsequently dissociates to produce hydrogen ions and carbonate ions. Okay, so what happens is, you may look at the equation now. You have the carbon dioxide and water which combine together to form carbonic acid, which is H2CO3 minus OH minus ions, make the rainwater more acidic and it becomes more aggressive dissolution agent. So that particularly for carbonate mineral, it easily dissolves the minerals like calcite. So that is about the simple solution. Now let's discuss about a process called hydrolysis. It is an important chemical reaction between silicate minerals and acids that leads to the breakdown of the silicate minerals and release of metal cations and silica. So it is to be remembered that silicate minerals and acids that leads to the breakdown of the metal cations and silica during the hydrolysis process. The reaction does not lead to the complete dissolution of the minerals. It is unlike the simple solution or congruent melting. Here, congruent dissolution. Here, it is not the case. It does not lead to the complete dissolution of the mineral. The amount of ions from the mineral that are taken into solution during the weathering does not correspond to the formula of the weathering mineral, which means that part of those ions are still left back without dissolution. This kind of incomplete dissolution is called incongruent dissolution. So let's take the example. If aluminum is present in the mineral which is undergoing incongruent dissolution, clay minerals such as kaolinite, illite and smectite may form as a byproduct of the hydrolysis. The example for this is orthoclase feldspar can break down to form kaolinite or illite, and in case of plagioclase feldspar, for example, albite mineral, that can decompose to kaolinite or smectite and so on. So all these cases there is no complete dissolution occurs. The part of the ions or rather the solution during the weathering does not correspond to the chemical formula of the mineral, of the weathering mineral. So that is about the hydrolysis, which is an important chemical reaction that break down the metal cations and silica, which especially occurs in silicate minerals. So that is very important. What happens during hydrolysis is H+ ions are commonly supplied by the dissociation of carbon dioxide in water, that we have already seen. The carbonic acid which dissociate to carbonate and hydrogen ions. So these hydrogen ions are commonly supplied by the dissociation of carbon dioxide in water, and more the carbon dioxide that is dissolved in water, the more aggressive the hydrolysis reaction that happens. So if you have an enhanced amount of carbon dioxide dissolved in water, then you have a higher chances of or higher aggressive reaction of hydrolysis happens. It can also take place in water containing no dissolved carbon dioxide. So let's take a situation where you do not have carbon dioxide, but still you have the process of hydrolysis occurs. How it occurs? Because the H+ ions are being supplied by the clay minerals in this case that have high proportion of H+ ions in cation exchange sites, or some plants which creates an acidic environment. So if you have some clay minerals which supplies H+ ions, or you have living plants that creates an acidic environment, that causes hydrolysis. Though you do not have much dissolved carbon dioxide present, if these two parameters are there, still you can have hydrolysis happen in weathering condition. And the silica set free during hydrolysis go into solution as silicic acid. So that the formula for which is H4SiO4. Some of the silica may separate as colloidal or amorphous silica, that is SiO2, and be left behind during the weathering. And this combine with aluminium to form clay mineral. So the silica that is combined with the aluminium and that forms some of the clay minerals. The hydrolysis is the primary process by which silicate mineral decompose during the weathering. It is to be remembered that silicate mineral decomposition happens due to hydrolysis in chemical weathering condition. So let's discuss about the pH, because all this while the formation of a new mineral is associated with the pH of the solution. So what do you mean by pH. So the acidity or alkalinity of a solution is expressed by its pH. The pH is defined as a negative logarithm to the base 10 of the approximate hydrogen ion concentration in moles per liter. So pH is nothing but the hydrogen ion concentration in moles per liter. Now let's see how the pH scale extends from. It extends from 0 to 14, having corresponding to H plus concentration ranging between 10 to the power 0 to 10 to the power minus 14. Example, a solution containing a H plus concentration of 10 to the power minus 1 moles per liter has a pH of 1. So the hydrogen ion concentration is what makes the mineral whether the solution whether it is acidic or alkaline. An H plus ion concentration of 10 to the power minus 7 yields a pH of 7 and so forth. So 7 is considered as a neutral pH. You can see that from the pH range from 0 to 14, and the midway is what we call it as 7, which is considered as a neutral solution. So generally the drinking water, the water that we drink, having a pH between 6 to 7. Acids have a pH value lower than 7 and bases have a pH value greater than 7. So this is how the pH is represented in solution. So it is nothing but the hydrogen ion concentration in moles per liter in a solution is what we call it as pH. Now let's discuss about the another major chemical changes during the weathering process. Chemical alteration of iron and manganese in silicate minerals such as biotite and pyroxenes caused by oxygen dissolved in water is an important weathering process. An electron is lost from the iron during oxidation, that is Fe2 plus to Fe3 plus electron E minus, where E minus is an electron transfer, that is a reaction which causes loss of other cations such as Si4 plus from the crystal lattice to maintain the electrical neutrality. Cation loss leaves vacancies in the crystal lattice that makes the mineral more susceptible to attack by other weathering process. So that is about the oxidation and reduction, which primarily occurs in case of iron and manganese. Now let's discuss about some another element that oxidizes during weathering is sulfur. Already we have discussed about the reaction of pyrite during oxidizing condition. So pyrite, which is FeS2, is oxidized to form hematite, that is the composition of which is Fe2O3. That release of soluble sulfate ions. In the reaction you have soluble sulfate ions are released. Under some condition where the material undergoing weathering in water saturated conditions, where the oxygen supply may be low and still the oxygen demand by organisms are high, these conditions can bring about reduction of ion, that is gain of an electron. Earlier it was a loss of an electron, here gain of an electron from Fe3 plus to Fe2 plus. So Fe2 plus is the ferrous ion, which is more soluble and are more mobile than the ferric ion, that is Fe3 plus, and it may be lost from the weathering system in solution. Then let's discuss about a process called hydration, which is a process where the water molecules are added to a mineral to form new mineral. Okay, so addition of water to hematite to form goethite, as we had given an example earlier. The water molecules added to hematite is that will form goethite, or anhydrite to form gypsum. If water is added to anhydrite, that would form gypsum. So you have to understand that hydration of anhydrite would form gypsum and hydration of hematite would form goethite. It is accompanied by changes in volume that may lead to physical disruptions of rock. So during hydration, the volume is changed, which causes physical disintegration of the rock. Under some condition, hydrated minerals may lose their water. As a process, we call it as dehydration, which is opposite of hydration, and it converts to anhydrous forms of minerals. With accompanying, along with that, there is a decrease in the volume of the mineral. So in case of hydration, the volume increases, and in case of dehydration, the volume reduces. Now, ion exchange is a process whereby ions in a mineral are exchanged with ions in solution. The example for which is the exchange of sodium for calcium. Ion exchange takes place between cations, that is positively charged ions, we call it as cation, but anion exchange can also occur. The reaction causes one mineral to be altered to another, that is a new mineral will form, and in the process release of soluble ions into solution. So ion exchange releases some soluble ions into the solution. Ion exchange is particularly important in alteration of one clay mineral to another. Example, alteration of smectite to illite, then there you have ionic exchange happens. It also plays an important role in alteration of one kind of zeolite to another zeolite, which is, for example, is a calcium zeolite. We call it as hewlandite. Hewlandite is altered to analcime, which is a sodium zeolite, because of the ion exchange. Here the calcium is exchanged for sodium, not vice versa. Then you have another process called chelation, which involves the bonding of metal ions to organic substances to form organic molecules having a ring structure. During weathering, chelation, that is organic complexing, performs the dual role of removing cations from mineral lattices and also keeping the cations in solution until they are removed from the weathering site. Chelated metal ions will remain in solution under pH condition and at concentration at which non-chelated ions would normally be precipitated. So chelation helps to delay the precipitation, or the chelated metal ions, they remain in solution without precipitation. The bonding of aluminum or iron with a complexing agent and subsequent removal of these elements from the rock are of particular importance in case of chemical weathering regime. For example, lichens that increase the rate of chemical weathering on rock surfaces on which they grow by secreting organic chelating agents. Plants also enhance chemical weathering process by retaining soil moisture and by acidifying waters by release of carbon dioxide and various types of organic acid during decay. So in this case you must understand that plants also helpful in enhancing the chemical weathering process. There are two things that they would do, that is retaining the soil moisture and acidifying the waters by release of carbon dioxide and other types of organic acid. So as we have discussed, there are number of principal kinds of products formed by subaerial weathering process and the type of sedimentary rocks ultimately formed from these products.